Okay, so we want to get the reference image onto your drawing paper. And a good method is the grid method, which I'm just about to show you now. So all you need really is a pencil and a ruler, and obviously your paper in which that you're going to draw that reference image onto. So I make it the same size as your reference image or the image that you're choosing to draw. So what you need to do now is just look at your reference photo, just sort of get it all, and then grab your ruler. So I've just grabbed my ruler and now I want to draw, I'm going in a 1-inch grid. So in essence, that means drawing 1 inch across and 1 inch down, and then obviously create a grid. Okay, so we'll organize that and do that now. Just speed it up. So in essence, you're just drawing across 1 inch and drawing down 1 inch, and then you join that up as a grid. Okay, and so now I'm going to do exactly the same on my plain bit of paper. I'm going to grab my ruler and I'm now going to place down inch squares across, just 1 inch going across and then 1 inch going down, and then join it as a grid. Okay, so I've now drawn the grid. Now, I always do this method on a spare bit of paper. So I grab a bit of printer paper, obviously cut it to size to what I'm drawing, and then draw the grid onto that. Then after I've done the actual image, I will transfer that onto the good paper, the drawing paper, because I can be quite heavy-handed when it comes to the grid. And as you can see, it doesn't always come off, and I don't want that on my paper that I'm going to be drawing the actual image on, the final piece. So you in essence look at your reference photo, look at the squares on the paper that you're drawing on, and then just so for instance on this one I will have decided that I will start just on the second, third square in, doing the top of the little duckling's head. So you look at that third square in where we're starting, and just look, or the second one actually, which I'm starting on and this side, is just look at how that little bit of head is in and placed in that second square. All right, so you just literally just more or less copy what's in the reference photo in those squares. So in this one, the little head and the neck area is going around in a curve, and then it's bringing out the back area still within that second square down, and you're just literally stroke by stroke, little by little, just copying what is in the squares as you see it in the reference photo. So you're looking at the negative space. Sometimes if there is more of the actual object or subject within the square, just look at the negative space and see how that is, proportioned within that square, and then just follow it all the way around, looking at every little square, how the subject is within that square, and just lightly, very lightly, with your pencil, sketch that in. And when you do it lightly, of course, you can just quite easily erase it with your eraser and do again. But it's a great way of, using your hand-eye coordination, looking at that image, looking at the shapes, most importantly, within that image. Our brain is likely to see the duckling, and it will do what it can to put down its own representation of what the duckling should look like, instead of actually what you are seeing in that reference photo, i.e. in terms of shapes, negative space, lights, darks, that sort of thing. So just draw within each square. It takes away the overwhelm if you're just literally working within one square. Don't necessarily look at the whole picture as you go around. Just focus on the individual square for the moment, and then briefly glance to see how you get along, making sure that it's all in proportion as you'd like. So looking at each square, placing down those shapes within that square. Don't worry too much about the shadows, because you can pick that up in the when you're actually drawing it. So yeah, just going around. And of course, this is a very small piece, and it's a great size to start with. Is starting with small pieces. The larger ones can be overwhelming as you're just learning. When you're learning larger, you can increase, if you want to, the size of your grid to maybe 2 inches, or stick with the 1 inch, or even go smaller, however you feel is comfortable for you. When I do the larger pieces, going really small with my grid, it doesn't work for me personally, because I just get overwhelmed with all the squares. So I like some sort of space in my square, so I can see and draw. But again, you work with however is comfortable for you. You may prefer the smaller squares or the larger squares, but just you go at your pace and how you like to learn. Okay, but this is a great way of starting to use your eye-hand coordination when starting to learn. It's not cheating. It's a fantastic guide to build your confidence when you're learning to draw. If you're wanting to draw freehand, it's just a great way of getting practice, because remember, your brain is a muscle, so the more it does of something, the more it will remember, and it will just become easier over time. So the key thing is not to put pressure on yourself on getting things perfect. Use a light touch. Your eraser is there for a reason, and use that as you wish, but just take your time and just check in each square to see how it goes, and then you can get your proportions more closely as to what you're hoping to go. Clean up as you go if you want to, but as I say, don't rush. Patience really does lead to better results when you're starting out and you're doing grid, and checking on that reference as well. Zoom in on any details and edges that you feel needs to be put in. Remember, it's an outline, so as you sort of learn and as you grow, sometimes too much detail in your sketched outline can confuse matters when you're actually drawing and finishing off the piece on your actual paper that you're using. So, but you will get used to, again, your own individual way of working. You will choose what's best for you in terms of how much detail you want to put in, or less detail. Sometimes it can become overwhelming, but you just need to put in the key points. So when you do reference it, when you go back to it, when you've transferred that onto your main paper, that you remember what that links to. Okay, so just going over, when you go on larger pieces as well, it's handy to have, I haven't done it on this small piece, but it's handy to maybe put rows and columns, I don't know, from A to whatever across the top, and then 1 to whatever number down the bottom on your reference image, and then do the same on the paper that you're wanting to put the image on, and then you can quite easily because sometimes you'll have a lot of squares there and you lose sight of which square you're working in. But if you've got them labelled like that, it is handy to have. And remember, you can always use a digital alternative if you want to. If you'd rather not print out the reference photo, you can use a digital grid over the top as well. Just ensure that they're the same size to what you're drawing on, so you get accurate transfer across. Okay, so once you have transferred your sketch onto the paper, now it is time to transfer that sketch onto your main paper that you're going to be drawing on. And one way of doing this, as this is a small piece, a very small piece, one way of doing it is putting graphite on the back of that paper. So as you would do with tracing paper, if you're using tracing paper, not a transfer paper, but tracing paper, is that you put graphite on the back, and then you turn it over then to then draw over that image again, and it will transfer that graphite onto the paper. The same can be done on the printer paper that you used to do the sketch image on. I mean, this is a small piece, so I'll do it on a small piece. Otherwise, if I were to transfer just out of speed, really, obviously I'll sketch my own image onto the printer paper and then maybe use transverse paper. So whatever you've got to hand, really. So so once you've got that graphite on the back, place the paper that you are wanting to have your final piece on, lay over your sketch with the graphite on the back or the transfer paper in between, and then draw over that sketch. And as you can see, it will then leave the graphite on the paper that you're wanting to draw on. So when you are doing this, depending on which paper you're using, try not to use a too heavy hand or a too sharper pencil, because that can indent the paper, and you don't always want that, because obviously when you're then placing in your pigment on your pencils or your pastel, it will leave sometimes a clear line. So just be mindful of the pressure that you're using to transfer your sketch onto the actual paper. Just keep checking it. Keep sort of flipping over your sketch just to ensure that it is placing the graphite on the actual paper that you want to use. Okay, so we're just finishing up on this piece, and then hopefully we'll be able to see the final image on the actual paper that you will eventually be using for your pigment. And there we go. So it's just light enough. If you find that there's too much graphite on, you can of course use your kneadable eraser to take off the additional graphite that you want, that you don't want, I should say. And equally, if it's not quite enough, just gently place over those missing lines. But again, depending on what medium you're using, just go careful if you're using graphite, because of course you don't want too much graphite if you're using pastels or coloured pencils. But there we go, that's one way of transferring that image onto your paper.